Yeah, this is bigger than what happened in 2008.
Hey, what's up, guys? Ray Dalio, one of the most respected macro investors in the world, believes that we are on the way to see bigger economic downturn than we have seen back in 2008. In this video, I will elaborate why Ray Dalio believes that we are heading into the Great Depression-like scenario. Today's market is in green. It has a nice bounce back after dropping 35%. The lowest price point of S&P 500 recently was at around $2,200. Now it's over $2,800. That's a 27% bounce back. Sounds good, right? But according to Ray Dalio, it's just the beginning. Let's take a look at volatility chart. Volatility is the log of risk-adjusted returns, and it swings up or down on daily basis. If we look at S&P 500 index, an average absolute daily percentage change over the past 5 weeks has been plus or minus 4.8%. That's higher than we saw in heights of 2008 housing bubble, which was slightly over 4%. Way higher than 2000's dot-com bubble, which was under 3%. And of course, it's still higher than 1987 market crash, which was under 4%. The last time we have seen something similar to this was in 1929 Great Depression. Volatility index spiked all the way till 5%, and we know what happened during that time. Volatility is not something bad. People tend to believe that volatility creates big losses in their pockets, while I believe volatility is there to serve you. It provides great opportunity to buy high quality assets in cheaper prices. Anyway, let's take a look what Ray Dalio has to say about our current economy.
But I am curious right now, I mean, just from a practical level, do you think that we're headed into a global depression?
Yes, but I want to be careful about what I use the word, like to be
Right,
technical.
absolutely.
The word is an evocative word, and it could
Sure.
be scary and so on. So what do you mean by a depression? Okay. Something like happened in the 1930s. So just to repeat, 1929 to 1932, there was a fall in the economy and a very double-digit unemployment rates and a magnitude of fall in the economy like about 10%. Do I think we're in that? Yes. How was that dealt with? 1933. What they did is they printed a lot of money. And the government came out with the same type of programs that we're having now. Yes, okay, same thing. Zero interest rates hit zero. Same thing. Okay, same dynamics. And then there is that money causes an expansion from that point. How long does it take for the stock market to exceed its highs? Or how long does it take for the economy to exceed its former highs? A long time. Okay, do I think that's what we're in? Yes, that's what we're in. We've seen that happen repeatedly in history. So many, many times. It's just the most recent one. And there's a structure to that. So yes, this is not a recession. This is a breakdown, an operation that I'm just describing in terms of how it's dealt with, the production of money and credit, and all of that. That's what we're in.
So, Ray Dalio does believe that currently we are in a very similar situation as we were in 1930s Great Depression. Actually, in the last video I made a comparison between today's economy and Great Depression. Ray Dalio reiterates many of those points that I mentioned in my video, such as double-digit unemployment rate, the bottom of the cycle when stock market dropped by 90% from 1929 until 1933. Unemployment rate skyrocketed all the way till 25%. 25% of all American people lost their jobs during the deflationary period. As per April 4, 2020, prior 3 weeks, more than 17 million American people filed for unemployment benefits. The rate of current unemployment comparing to the rate of unemployment in 2000's dot-com bubble and 2008 housing bubble is a joke. In 2000's dot-com bubble, the rate peaked in less than 500,000 of unemployment claims, and in 2008 housing bubble, the rate peaked at 650,000 of unemployment claims. But right now, unemployment rate is skyrocketed. It's at least 10 times higher. Many economists project that unemployment rate can surge up to 32%. That's even higher than what we have seen during the Great Depression. Another point that Ray Dalio mentioned that interest rates during the Great Depression were very low, very similar to the current situation where rates are at 0%. And final point that Ray Dalio mentioned that they were printing large sums of money. The country effectively abandoned the gold standard in 1933 and started printing money. The same here. Q infinity is in process. Holy shit! If you look at the Federal Reserve balance sheet, we already reached $6 trillion. Just in the past 1 month, balance sheet increased by 50%. This is the reason why stock market is still floating in the clouds. But you can only imagine what it does to your purchasing power, what it does to US dollar in terms of inflation. Imagine your purchasing power drops by 50% in just 1 month. Well, that's not really how it works directly, but you got the idea. Let's take a look at the next question.
Ray, just popping in here with a couple of questions from our online audience. I mean, the main question early on was just how difficult do you think the days ahead are for the economy? And you've answered that very vigorously, like using that word depression. That's a very strong word, and it's. Tell me if I have this right. It feels to me like what you just said there is stronger than most people in the market seem to believe. The market is behaving as if, we've had the bad news and it sort of kind of wants to come back. And a lot of people seem to think that within, I don't know, a year, we'll be back where you are. You're saying, no, it's going to take longer. Does that imply that there is basically a sort of some systemic shocks that the market hasn't yet fully seen, perhaps to do with the inability of some players to handle the extreme levels of debt that are piling up right now as people can't work?
Yeah, I can't speak for what everybody's thinking out there. The markets are off depending on what market and depending on what country you're in. Something in the vicinity of 25 to 45 or 50%, depending what currency you're managing in. And so if you're talking about emerging markets, they're worse because they're not going to get as much and so on. I can describe what I see, okay? We see something like $20 trillion of losses. Okay, we see, so if you work that through and you say you don't have money, and you don't have credit, your business can fail. You know this. We see this all around us. So there can be failures when there can't be payments. And so the question is, who gets what check to make those payments and get past it? But we're going to have a giant restructuring of the IOUs, and we're going to work out when hospitals can go broke, because this is terribly costly for hospitals. And they will not fully recover their losses. Hospitals will go broke, even though we know that they need them. So when you have to go entity by entity through this, and then you'll go through the process of who will pay. So this is not, some people mistake this as there is a virus, and the virus may come and go. Okay, maybe we never see it again. I don't think that's likely, but I mean, the people who tell me say, but who knows? But if it never came back again, there will be those who are broke and who will have loss of income. We're going to change how we operate in a way. The supply lines are going to change. In other words, self-sufficiency. What is self-sufficiency now going to mean? Do we have enough of this and that? We're going to restructure our economy and restructure the financial system in ways that mean we are not going to go back to the way it was.
Ray Dalio said that we are seeing something like $20 trillion of losses. That's basically the entire US economy. Currently, US economy is equivalent close to $21 trillion in nominal terms. If you look at the world economy, obviously US is the biggest economic machine, but the total world economy is around $80 trillion. $20 trillion losses, that would be 25% decline of the total world economic activities. A lot of things are going to change after this restructuring. Currently, we have a lot of zombie companies. Have you seen Walking Dead? That's precisely what it looks like with the high leveraged companies, such as American Airlines and Boeing and many others. In this current zero interest rate environment, money are so cheap, so those zombie companies can just easily inflate the stock prices by buying back their shares. In the end of the day, they're ripping off the shareholders while staking on their bonuses and stock options. We should not be bailing those companies out. Let them fail, let them learn the lesson, let the free market decide what is right and what is wrong. Let's take a quick look at another question.
So do you see systemic threats to the financial industry as great or greater than happened in 2008?
Yeah, this is bigger than what happened in 2008. I'll distinguish it. In 2008, we had banks. It's the same thing, meaning you have a certain amount of leverage, things go down. Too much leverage means you're broke in accounting terms. So then you look around and you say, who are the systemically important entities that you don't want to go broke? Because do you want to lose those banks at this time? And then you can make up money and make up credit, and you can keep them alive in some way. And you did it with banks, and through the banks, there were the mortgages, and that's what it looked like. This is more complex than that, because there are the banks, and then there are all of those that are beyond banks. All of the little businesses, all of those in all the different places that are beyond it. And it's a bigger crisis, and we have a less effective monetary policy because interest rates declines have reached their limit. And just buying financial assets by the central bank and buying the normal financial assets won't work. They have to buy the debt of the government, and the government, or the many governments, have to be effective in getting buying power and production to those who need it around the world.
Ray Dalio said that this is bigger than what happened in 2008 housing bubble. In 2008, stock market dropped by 50%. Specifically, S&P 500 dropped from $1,500 till mid-$700. This economic contraction was created by mainly a highly over-leveraged banks who were swapping toxic derivatives known as credit default swaps and transferring their liabilities to other banks and other financial institutions. It kind of reminds me as a hot potato game, where banks were tossing around high toxic liabilities, and who end up with the most of those liabilities in the end will lose. Lehman Brothers was one of them. Now, currently, we do not have that situation. Just recently, stock market was trading at a new all-time high. Everyone thought that sunshines and rainbows will never end. But we had a black swan event, and the market took a dive and dropped by 35% from its all-time high and wiped out all the gains since early 2017. I do not think this is over. The same bounce back we witnessed in 1930s, as we end up being in a Great Depression for more than 3 years. Unlike in 2008, we do not have highly leveraged banks. In 2008, government bailed out major banks, but Ray Dalio believes that current situation is more complex. Government cannot bail out everyone. Personally, I believe they should not bail out anybody in the first place. But of course, you can't forget about the free market and capitalism. Currently, we are in a crony capitalism, which means major corporations that are close to the government will get bailed out, while small businesses will fail. So, according to Ray Dalio, we are currently in a much bigger economic downturn than we were in 2008 housing bubble. Let me know what do you guys think about Ray Dalio and his opinion on the current economic state. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, hit that like button, and subscribe.